Hello and welcome to the Helpers EcoBiz show, where you can get ideas to grow your business and make it greener. And today I'm joined by Thalia Carr, talking about sustaining our eco business goals for the planet. So welcome, Thalia, and great to have you on the show.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome. And so Thalia helps mid-career sustainability professionals increase their impact by stepping up to new challenges, rediscover their inner passions and confidence, and help them move forward with greater clarity and conviction. So as eco-focused entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, why do you think we often lose momentum with our goals?
Well, I think actually we've got to remember that you might be an eco-focused entrepreneur, but you're actually a person. And there's so much happening. So we've had the IPCC report out this week, which there's no good news in there really about what's happening with the climate. We've got a war happening in Ukraine, and we may well have our own stuff going on. And all of that is going to affect how we are as a business. And if you're working alone, especially, or you're heading up a small team, you're your own motivator. You have to be the one who does it. So I think there's just no surprises really that you might lose connection with your goals.
Yeah, I think it's really tough, isn't it? And I mean, what are some of the ways that you think we can do to kind of rejuvenate ourselves, and how do we do that?
So I love that idea of rejuvenation, and I'm not sure that I do it, kind of that sounds like making people younger again. But essentially, I think there's two things that you need to do. So first of all, you need to check in with your values. What is actually important to you? So, and they'll be different for everyone. So it could be honesty, could be efficiency, could be building a community or making a difference. One of your values is probably making enough money to support your family, all of those kind of things. And they're really strong motivators. So don't cut corners on your values. So if, for example, you're thinking, oh, I'll take this piece of work because it'll pay, but it's actually not fitting with your values, that's going to be a real drainer. So if where at all possible, try and fit as closely to your values as possible. And then the other thing to do to kind of keep yourself going is to take a breath. So that's taking a breath in the day, like right now, just take a breath, deep breath in, deep breath out, and you feel automatically different. But then taking a breather, so taking a break during the day, taking a break between emails and things that you're doing, taking a weekend, just because you're an entrepreneur doesn't mean you have to work every hour. And just making sure that you're building in those breaths, that time to breathe. And I think those two things are key to remember.
Yeah, I think that's really key. It is really key. I think it's all too often very easy to just keep going at it, work over weekends, work into the evening, and it's quite important, especially working from home. I try and structure it. That's, luckily I've got a separate room, but I get up, I get dressed, I have a bit of a routine. I come and sit at the desk, and then, come 6 o'clock, I shut everything down. I walk out the room and I close the door, and that's work done for the day. And it's really important to do that, isn't it? Because you can get burnout in that as well. Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I know you say, people can find their answers, but don't they sometimes, you can go on, you can search online, you can watch things and everything, but sometimes don't they just want some advice?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. As a coach, my job is to help people to find their own answers. And advice, really, I think, is only appropriate when I've got the information and they haven't. So if it was like, how do I write a proper CV? Maybe I'd have some information on that. If it was how to do it, how do I do a tax return? Well, not me, but someone else might be able to help you with a tax return. That's information that I have and the other person hasn't got. But when it comes to things like how can I be more confident, or which option should I choose, or how do I handle this difficult situation at work, or should I actually get a part-time job, all of those things, if I start giving advice there, it's not going to land. It might not be right. it's my ideas, not your ideas. So that's where it's really important as a coach to bring those ideas out. So yeah, there's a time for giving advice, but not in coaching really. Coaching is really much more about letting you think it through and work it out for yourself, and working out the answer that is right for you. And sometimes that's a big surprise for me.
Yeah,
So,
I think sometimes, people have got the answers in them, haven't they? But it's just that talking through process, and maybe you having kind of certain parameters in place or tools to just help them get to that decision, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And how do you help? This sort of leads on to the next question then, is sort of how do you help people to find their own answers to the big questions? I mean, we talk about, there's a lot of stuff that you kind of cover, because there's all that climate stuff going on, there's kind of a lot of eco grief, there's anxiety, and then you've got all this thing about, confidence and career, and, what should I do? What's my purpose? How do you help people to come up with the answers to those big questions?
Yeah, and it's really interesting listening to you there. It's like, oh, this and this and this and this. And do you know what it sounds like? It sounds a little bit like, I don't know if you do wake up in the middle of the night, but that kind of middle of the night thinking, kind of, oh, I've got this and then this and then this and then this. And so when I'm helping people to think, I'm not trying to give them middle of the night type thinking. I'm not trying to give them that kind of round, around, and not getting anywhere and then this other thing. It's more like I'm trying to help people to kind of follow their train of thought. And if you think of that idea of a train, so follow the train right to the destination. Don't go into the sidings, don't go on a branch line. And I think that's what coaching can do. So you ask a suitable question, and that question, you can still go on asking, tell me a bit more about that. And all I'm really doing is listening. But because we've got that question there as the focus, that keeps people on that train line, if you like. So they're not going off on this and another thing, and I should think about this, because you've got that question always there, and you're kind of keeping them focused. It's how people work together. Actually, it's a very powerful thing that happens in our brains when somebody's asking a question and just keeping on saying, yeah, well, tell me a bit more, and how does that work out? And so yes, I love it because it's enabling people in a way that you don't get with a chat with a friend. Because a chat with a friend will get involved. They'll say, oh, really? Yeah, and I had that. Or they'll do the, oh, well, I would do this in that situation. And of course, that's not what my job is as a coach.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I think, I come across a lot of people, and I know I've done it myself, you're getting advice that from so many different areas, and you just end up even being more and more confused. So I do love that idea of kind of just sticking on topic and focusing, because I know I do as well, have a sort of 100 thoughts going on at the same time, and it's like, right, I've got to just focus on this one thing now and get that done. That's amazing. So what do you think is, what would you say is your top eco tip then? Or have you got a couple you want to share?
Okay, so top eco tip. So that's a really interesting question, because I'm wondering what you mean by that. So if you mean by top eco tip, what's the one thing that you can do as an individual to improve the climate or to improve the environment, then it probably doesn't fall into the eco tip box. I think what we need to do to make a big difference is system change. So how does that relate to an eco tip? I think you have to think big. So I think you've got to think, how can I get climate into the news? So that might be tweeting, it might be talking, it might be protesting, it might be writing to the media, joining a climate group. So you're with other people and you've got a bigger footprint, if you like, and just talking about climate. So anything that is going to change the system of thinking and the system voting, all of those things. I think, if you say, oh, well, I heard a great one the other day. Every bit of leftover food, I freeze it in the freezer, and then I don't have any food waste. Great tip. But, I'll take that on. It's not going to make much difference. So I think we've got to really focus on system change.
Yeah, I agree. That's a really great tip. Thank you. And I love the way you kind of reframed that and looked at that in a different way, because I think that's really important. So that we've come to the end of the show. It does go quickly. And so people, if they want to find out more about what you do and want to work with you, your website is thaliacarr.co.uk.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're on LinkedIn as well. You're quite active on there, so people can search for you there. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
You're welcome. It was good to see you again.
Yeah, no, some great tips you shared there. And to our viewers, if you're watching live, you're watching the replay, do come with your questions. You can find us on LinkedIn as well. So subscribe to the channel, and you can sign up to my email list as well and get it delivered to your inbox every week. So we'll see you same time next week. Thanks for watching. And again, thanks for joining us, Thalia.
You're welcome.